Antarctica, a place where the sun never truly rises and never truly sets. A frozen continent at the edge of the world, endless, white, and silent. For centuries, it was a place of mystery, of death, and of the unknown. But in the winter of 1947, one man returned from this frozen wasteland with a story that would defy logic, science, and everything humanity thought it knew about the planet we live on. That man was Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, the most famous polar explorer of his time. He was no amateur adventurer, no conspiracy theorist. He was a war hero, a decorated pilot, and one of the few men trusted by both the U.S. Navy and the scientific community. He had flown over both poles, mapped thousands of kilometers of uncharted land, and led some of the most ambitious expeditions in history. But after his flight in February 1947, something in him changed. His public reports were short, calm, and technical, but in his private notes, later revealed after his death, the words were different. There was fear, awe, and a sense that he had seen something that no human was supposed to witness. According to those accounts, during a reconnaissance flight over the South Pole, Byrd's instruments began to malfunction. The magnetic compass spun wildly. The altimeter refused to respond. The radio went silent. Then, the impossible happened. The white wasteland below suddenly disappeared. In its place, there was color. A valley of green stretching far beyond the horizon. Rivers, forests, and even mountains without snow. He wrote that the light was soft, not from the sun above, but from a glowing sphere suspended in the sky, a sun within the earth. As he descended lower, he saw shapes moving on the ground, creatures that looked like mammoths and buildings that shimmered like crystal under an eternal twilight. He had entered a world that was not supposed to exist. Moments later, a strange metallic craft appeared beside his plane. No sound, no heat, no turbulence, just a silent presence following him. Then a voice entered his mind, calm and commanding. "Welcome, Admiral Byrd. You are in the domain of the inner world. We have been expecting you." Byrd claimed he was guided to land his aircraft on a platform made of glowing stone. He was greeted by tall, human-like beings with luminous eyes and a calm, almost angelic demeanor. They took him to a vast city filled with light, streets that radiated energy, structures that pulsed softly as if alive. Their leader spoke to him about humanity's self-destruction, about nuclear weapons, greed, and the danger of repeating the fall of ancient civilizations. They warned that the surface world was approaching a point of no return. After several hours, or what felt like hours, Byrd said he was escorted back to his aircraft. He was told, "You will not remember this until the time is right." His plane rose through the same glowing mist, and the next thing he remembered was the blinding white of Antarctica. When he returned to base, he was silent. He wrote his report, but before it could be made public, Naval Intelligence classified it. He was ordered not to speak about what he saw, not to anyone. His journal disappeared. His logbooks were sealed. He was forbidden from ever flying over the South Pole again. In public, the mission was declared a success. In private, whispers spread among the crew, rumors of radio silence, of strange lights in the sky, of things they could not explain. Years later, fragments of Byrd's alleged diary surfaced. They described the same vision, an inner world beneath our own, warmed by a central light, a vast civilization older than humanity itself. Some called it Agartha, others the inner earth. The U.S. government dismissed it as fiction. Scientists said Byrd had experienced hallucinations caused by magnetic anomalies and isolation. But those who knew him personally said he was not the kind of man to invent stories. He had risked his life dozens of times. He was precise, disciplined, and deeply patriotic. Why would such a man lie about something so extraordinary, knowing it would destroy his reputation? To this day, the details of Operation High Jump remain partially classified. Why did the Navy send an entire fleet to Antarctica in the middle of peacetime, just 2 years after World War II? And why did the mission, planned for 8 months, end abruptly after only 6? Officially, the reason was bad weather. But the logs tell another story. Sudden losses of equipment, reports of unidentified aerial objects attacking reconnaissance planes, dozens of men injured, and 3 killed under unclear circumstances. Byrd returned home, was debriefed in Washington, and then disappeared from public view for months. When he finally spoke again, his words were cryptic. The greatest threat comes not from across the oceans, but from beyond the poles. What did he mean? Was he warning about an enemy nation or about something else entirely? Something ancient and hidden beneath our feet? As the decades passed, his story was buried under ridicule and denial. But the legend of Admiral Byrd never died, because deep down, people felt it, that the earth might still be hiding secrets far beyond our imagination. A secret world beneath the surface, a civilization untouched by time, a sun that shines not above, but within. And perhaps, somewhere under the ice of Antarctica, the entrance to that world still waits, silent, patient, and real. Long before Admiral Byrd ever took flight, ancient civilizations across the planet were already telling stories about a hidden realm beneath the earth. To them, it was not a theory. It was a memory. In the Himalayas, monks spoke of a sacred kingdom called Agartha, a radiant world inside the earth, ruled by beings of immense wisdom and peace. They said its capital, Shambhala, lay beyond physical reach, protected by invisible gates of energy. Only those with pure hearts and enlightened minds could find the way. In their writings, the inner world was not a place of darkness, but of light, a realm of harmony where the air shimmered with a golden glow and time flowed differently. Legends describe glowing rivers, floating cities, and towers that pulse with living light. It was the mirror of our world, but perfect, untouched, eternal. From Tibet to India, from Mongolia to China, stories of Agartha carried the same symbols: a hidden sun, a central realm, and guardians who sometimes visited the surface to guide humanity. They called them the masters of the inner world, beings who interfered only when human civilization lost its balance. Half a world away, the ancient Greeks spoke of Hades, Tartarus, and Elysium, not merely as realms of the dead, but as deep layers of the earth where souls traveled and civilizations once existed. Philosophers like Plato hinted that under the crust of our planet lay vast cavities illuminated by glowing stone and fire. Even Aristotle and Seneca wrote of subterranean regions where unknown forces flowed like living veins. In the frozen north, Norse myths told of Svartalfheim, the realm of the dwarves, a subterranean kingdom of master craftsmen who forged weapons for the gods. They lived under mountains, their forges glowing red through cracks in the rock, and their tunnels stretched for hundreds of miles beneath the human world. The Hopi people of North America carried a similar story. According to their sacred tablets, their ancestors once lived underground, sheltered from the fire and flood that destroyed the previous world. They emerged through a great hole in the earth, the Sipapu, to begin life anew on the surface. Elders say the entrance still exists, hidden somewhere in the Grand Canyon. From the Amazon to Siberia, from Egypt to Polynesia, myths repeat the same strange idea, that beneath our feet lies another domain, connected to ours through secret passages, caves, and ancient gateways. Some entrances were said to be sealed by time. Others were protected by invisible energy, allowing only the chosen to pass through. In 1913, the Russian mystic Nicholas Roerich traveled through Tibet in search of Shambhala. He wrote that monks he met in hidden monasteries spoke of lights moving under the mountains and voices of those who dwell beneath the earth. When he asked where this kingdom was, one Lama pointed toward the north and said, "It is not far from here." But no map can take you there. Roerich described the belief that Agartha's people occasionally visited the surface, their presence marked by strange lights in the sky, sudden technological knowledge, and miraculous healings. Some Tibetan scrolls even say that Buddha himself visited the inner world to receive enlightenment. To them, Shambhala was not a myth. It was the heart of the planet's spirit. Even in Christian mysticism, faint echoes of the same idea appear. Early texts speak of a land called Eden Restored, a place inside the earth where the Garden of Paradise still exists, protected after humanity's fall. Some 17th century scholars believe that the flood of Noah came from subterranean waters released by divine force. When the deluge ended, those waters retreated, leaving behind vast, hollow chambers within the crust. By the time European explorers reached Asia in the 1800s, they found that nearly every culture, from Tibet to Mongolia to Siberia, shared some version of the same legend. They all spoke of a king of the world who ruled from beneath the surface, a being of immense wisdom, guiding the fate of nations through unseen influence. He was said to communicate with certain enlightened humans, monks, scientists, and even political leaders through dreams, symbols, and visions. For centuries, the myth of Agartha seemed to connect everything: religion, philosophy, and even early science. If the surface world represented chaos, war, and imperfection, then the world beneath symbolized peace, knowledge, and unity. Light within darkness, order beneath the storm. But what if these myths were not mere metaphors? What if they were fragmented memories of something real, a civilization that once thrived below, hidden from the cycles of destruction that erased so many worlds above? In the late 19th century, explorers began to search for these entrances. Some claimed to find enormous cave systems in Tibet, in the Andes, and deep under the Ural Mountains. A few returned with stories of impossible ruins, of tunnels stretching endlessly, carved as if by machines. Others never returned at all. To this day, there are mountain peaks in Asia where locals refuse to climb. They say the air hums as if alive, and that travelers who approach certain valleys vanish without a trace. Old monks say those places are not cursed. They are gateways, still guarded by the protectors of Shambhala. In every corner of the world, the same message echoes through time, that humanity is not alone upon the earth, and that perhaps the greatest secret of all is not written in the stars, but buried deep beneath the ground we walk on. By the dawn of the scientific age, humanity began to look at the earth not through myth, but through mathematics and measurement. Yet even science could not completely silence the question that had haunted explorers for centuries: what truly lies beneath our feet? In the 17th century, a man named Edmund Halley, the same astronomer who predicted the orbit of Halley's comet, proposed something extraordinary. He suggested that the Earth might not be solid at all. According to Halley, the planet could consist of multiple concentric shells, each one separated by vast hollow spaces, perhaps even with their own magnetic fields and atmospheres. To him, these inner worlds could explain strange magnetic anomalies that no scientist of the era could understand. Halley's theory shocked his peers, but it did not vanish. A century later, it found new life in the hands of dreamers, philosophers, and explorers. Among them was John Cleves Sims, a former American Army captain, who believed with absolute conviction that the poles were open gateways to the interior of the planet. He even petitioned Congress to fund an expedition to prove it. In 1820, he declared publicly, "The earth is hollow and habitable within. It contains concentric spheres and is open at the poles 12 or 16 degrees. Many mocked him, yet thousands attended his lectures. For a time, the hollow earth became one of the most talked about ideas in the Western world. Writers like Jules Verne and Edgar Allan Poe transformed the theory into legend. Verne's novel Journey to the Center of the Earth painted vivid images of vast caverns, prehistoric forests, and oceans lit by glowing minerals deep below the crust. It was fiction, but inspired by real scientific debates of the time. Even the New York Times once published serious discussions about possible polar openings, based on unexplained warm currents flowing from the Arctic. By the early 20th century, with advances in geology and seismology, mainstream science officially rejected the idea of a hollow planet. Earthquakes revealed the presence of solid layers, crust, mantle, and core. Yet even as the textbooks closed the door, anomalies continued to appear. Magnetic disturbances near both poles, sudden shifts in temperature, auroras that seemed to come from beneath the horizon rather than from the sun, and strange radar readings over Antarctica where the ice appeared to conceal vast empty chambers. Modern physics says that the core of Earth is solid metal surrounded by molten iron. But there are questions that remain strangely unanswered. Why does the magnetic field of our planet drift unpredictably, as if responding to forces not fully mapped? Why do certain sound waves travel through the Earth in ways that suggest empty zones, areas of density far lower than expected? And why, even today, are satellite images of the poles partially censored, with circular regions of data missing from public view? Some scientists dismiss these gaps as simple errors of data processing, but to others, they look eerily like intentional omissions, circular voids, exactly where early explorers claimed the entrances to the inner Earth would be. In the 1960s, when the United States and the Soviet Union began drilling deep into the crust, they hoped to reach the boundary of the mantle. Neither succeeded. The Soviet project in Kola, Russia, descended more than 12 kilometers before the drill suddenly failed. Instruments recorded unexplainable heat spikes and vibrations, and, according to some accounts, faint sounds resembling human voices. Officially, it was dismissed as drilling noise. Unofficially, the workers were terrified. Even today, the deepest hole ever created by humans barely scratches the surface, less than 1/3 of 1% of the Earth's radius. Everything we claim to know about the interior comes not from direct observation, but from interpretation, indirect data, sound waves, and assumption. In truth, no one has ever seen what lies deep beneath. Seismologists measure vibrations and construct computer models, but a model is only as good as the data it's built on. If the data are incomplete, or if something truly different exists within, our entire picture of the planet could be wrong. Some modern theorists have revived the idea of subsurface biospheres, massive cavities filled with air, water, and microbial life created by geological forces. Others propose that unknown physical reactions deep below might generate light and heat, perhaps even forming a small artificial sun at the core, not in the mythical sense, but as a natural phenomenon of plasma and radiation. And then there are those who see patterns not in geology, but in history. Why did so many ancient cultures, thousands of miles apart, describe the Earth as layered, breathing, alive? Why did they speak of gods and beings emerging from below, rather than descending from the sky? Could they have known something that modern science has chosen to forget? A few bold researchers have even suggested that the magnetic poles are not fixed points, but energy vortices, natural gateways into the deeper layers of the planet's structure. They claim that, under certain conditions, such as intense geomagnetic storms or solar flares, these regions could momentarily open, revealing hidden passages of immense scale. No proof exists, but satellite data continue to show odd temperature shifts and strange electromagnetic echoes at both poles. In 2018, a classified U.S. Navy study leaked online, describing unidentified heat sources detected more than 2 miles below the Antarctic ice sheet. The report mentioned cavities large enough to contain entire mountains. Official agencies quickly dismissed it as a geological misinterpretation. But the images, once released, showed symmetrical patterns, too precise to be natural. Perhaps the Earth is solid, perhaps it is not. But what remains undeniable is that we still know less about the interior of our planet than we do about the surface of Mars. We have sent probes billions of miles into space, yet we have never truly explored the world beneath our feet. For every kilometer we dig, the mystery only deepens. And for every explanation science offers, another question quietly rises, a whisper from the depths, asking if we have mistaken the crust of the world for the whole of its truth. After the Second World War, the race for the poles became more than a matter of exploration. It became a matter of power. The great nations of the world suddenly turned their eyes toward the frozen continent at the bottom of the map, Antarctica. Officially, they sought science. Unofficially, they sought something else. In 1946, the United States launched Operation High Jump, led by Admiral Richard Byrd. It was the largest Antarctic expedition in history. 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,000 men. The official mission? Testing equipment in extreme conditions. But internal Navy records hinted at a different goal: mapping mysterious magnetic anomalies and investigating unidentified threats in the southern hemisphere. For the first few weeks, the operation went smoothly. Then reports began to surface. Aircraft disappearing, equipment failing, and radio operators picking up strange signals in unknown languages. In his post-expedition interview with a Chilean newspaper, Byrd warned that America must remain alert against enemies that can fly from pole to pole with incredible speed. The statement was later censored from U.S. media. Rumors spread that the fleet had encountered something it could not fight. Some claimed it was a secret Nazi base hidden beneath the ice. Others believed it was contact with forces from the inner world itself, guardians protecting their realm. Whatever the truth, Operation High Jump ended abruptly, months ahead of schedule. Dozens were injured, several aircraft were lost, and Byrd, once the hero of polar exploration, returned a changed man, forbidden to speak freely ever again. When he was called to testify in Washington, his records were sealed. His diary disappeared into classified archives, and in 1957, he led one final mission to Antarctica under heavy military supervision, then died 2 years later. Some of his family members claim that shortly before his death, he confessed, "There is more truth under that ice than the world will ever allow to surface." The mystery deepened when fragments of secret documents emerged decades later. Declassified CIA reports from the 1950s mentioned unexplained aerial phenomena over the South Pole. U.S. Navy memos referenced entrances detected by radar, enormous voids beneath the ice filled with warm air. Scientists dismissed them as volcanic chambers, but the data never matched natural geology. At the same time, Soviet expeditions to Antarctica were gathering their own anomalies. One of their aircraft vanished completely after reporting a bright opening in the clouds and strong magnetic pull. When they searched the area, they found no wreckage, only a circular zone of ice that seemed recently melted, hundreds of meters wide. In 1973, a joint Soviet-Chilean expedition drilled into a subglacial cave system near Lake Vostok. The instruments recorded temperatures far above what should exist under miles of ice. The mission was suddenly halted. The area was declared restricted. No explanation was given. Satellite images in later decades only added more questions. Infrared scans revealed massive underground voids, some the size of cities, and heat signatures deep below the surface that could not be explained by geothermal activity. Each time such an image appeared, it was quietly removed from public access within weeks. Then came the testimonies of whistleblowers. Former military personnel spoke of strange operations near the poles, construction of research stations far away from any recorded location, and flights redirected without explanation to avoid specific coordinates. One pilot recalled being told, "You are entering restricted airspace. Deviation required immediately." When he checked later, that location didn't officially exist. By the 1990s, private expeditions began to stumble upon clues that seemed to confirm the old legends. Warm air rising from fissures in the ice. streams of fresh water flowing upward instead of down, caverns glowing faintly, as if illuminated from below. And yet, every time these discoveries vanish from headlines, their findings retracted, their funding mysteriously cut. Some claim that governments are protecting scientific secrets, hidden biospheres, or ancient microbes. Others believe something far older is being concealed, a remnant civilization, hidden since before recorded history, watching humanity's rise and fall from within the planet's heart. Even today, Antarctica remains the most restricted place on Earth. International treaties forbid private exploration beyond certain zones. No country truly owns it, and yet every major power maintains a presence there. For a land of ice and rock, it is guarded like a treasure. What is buried beneath that ice? A lost human colony? Evidence of an ancient technology? Or the entrance to a world that Admiral Byrd once glimpsed and could never forget? The more the world learns about the poles, the more questions emerge. And behind every question, a silence carefully maintained, as if someone or something is making sure the truth never escapes the snow. Today, more than 70 years after Admiral Byrd's final flight, the mystery remains. We have mapped the stars, decoded the genome, and peered billions of light years into the past. Yet we still do not truly know what lies beneath our own planet. Satellites continue to record heat signatures far below the Antarctic ice. Strange electromagnetic pulses echo from the depths of the crust. And seismic readings sometimes register vibrations with no clear origin, as if the Earth itself were breathing. Scientists explain them as natural phenomena, and perhaps they are. But others see in them the faint heartbeat of something alive beneath us. A world hidden, waiting, and ancient beyond imagination. Every culture on Earth speaks of an underworld, not always of death, but of rebirth. A place where souls are renewed, where light shines from within darkness. Maybe these stories were never about a physical journey downward, but a memory of a time when humanity once walked between worlds. If a civilization does exist inside the planet, it would have watched our rise and our wars, our empires and collapses, our arrogance and our pain. Perhaps they remain silent, not from fear, but from wisdom, watching, waiting for us to evolve enough to understand. And yet, part of us still feels their presence. When we stand before a deep cave, when thunder rolls from underground, something in us remembers that we are not the first, that the Earth is older and wiser than we can ever imagine. Maybe the true entrance to the inner world is not carved in the ice, nor hidden beneath the mountains, but within the human spirit itself, the part of us that still seeks truth in the dark. In the end, Admiral Byrd's words still echo like a prophecy. I have seen the land beyond the pole, the great unknown center. Perhaps what he saw was not only a place, but a reflection of what we have lost: balance, harmony, and light within ourselves. The deeper we look into the earth, the deeper we are forced to look into our own nature, to ask whether the real mystery lies below or inside. Maybe one day the ice will melt and the world beneath our feet will reveal itself at last. Until then, the silence of Antarctica endures, cold, vast, and eternal, guarding the secret of the inner sun.